Welcome to this video on compound inequalities in one variable. So far, with inequalities in one variable, we've dealt with situations where the solution set for a variable is greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to a number. But sometimes, the range of values for a situation might be more complex than simply greater than or less than a number. There are two specific types of situations I'm referring to. One of them is where the value of a variable must be between two numbers. And the other situation is when the value of a variable can be either greater than one number or less than a different number. That either one of those cases could be okay. Let's look at a couple of examples. In the first one, let's say that you're on a 400-meter relay team where each of four runners will run 400 meters and then pass the baton to the next runner. Let's say that your coach has told you that if your team can complete the race in 220 seconds, your team will win the competition this weekend. On the day of the race, you are chosen to be the third runner. The first two runners finished their legs of the race in 56 and 58 seconds each. That's a total of 114 seconds out of the 220 needed to win. So you and the fourth runner have 106 seconds left to complete your legs of the race. But now there's a twist. It turns out that you are the Flash's identical cousin, and you can actually run the 400 meter in 2 seconds. To be honest, I didn't realize the real backstory of Flash's powers. So let's just say that you were also struck by lightning. Way to tie this topic to real life, Mr. Ali. I know, right? So you've decided that you cannot run the race in any less than 49 seconds, or you'll probably be exposed as a superhero. You also know that the fourth runner, the one that comes after you, runs a very reliable 54-second 400 meters. So the question is, what are the possible times that you can run the race in to make sure that you aren't exposed as a superhero, but you also win the race? Let's see how that would look. With 106 seconds available to you and runner 4, and knowing that number 4 will run a solid 52 seconds, that leaves you 54 seconds to run your leg. So your time must be at least 48 seconds and no more than 54 seconds. So how do we write this as an inequality? Well, your time t must be greater than or equal to 48, and it must be less than or equal to 54. Having two inequalities that both have to be true, that's a type of compound inequality. And because they both have to be true, we call this a compound and inequality. It's a compound and inequality because both conditions both have to be true. For and type compound inequalities, you can write them as a single statement with two inequality symbols in it. So the two inequalities can be written as 48 less than or equal to t less than or equal to 54. In other words, the lowest number of the range on the left, then a less than sign or a less than or equal to, then the variable, and then the other number on the right, the highest number. Once again, it's called a compound and inequality. The variable's in the middle, and the high and low values are on the right and left, respectively. We'll hear more about compound and inequalities in a future video. But for now, let's move on to another type of compound inequality. Let's say you're designing space flights for NASA, or space x if you prefer. And let's say that the flight involves acceleration, orbit, and deceleration of the spacecraft. During acceleration and deceleration, the speed of this vehicle will be between 500 and 800 miles per hour. Unfortunately, it turns out that if the speed stays between 600 and 650 miles per hour for any length of time, the vibrations of the aircraft are actually so bad that the rivets that hold the spacecraft together can actually shear, or basically break, causing a catastrophic accident. What is the inequality that describes the acceptable range of speed for the spacecraft? In this case, the speed s can be either less than 600 miles per hour or greater than 650 miles per hour. We can write these inequalities as s less than 600 or s greater than 650. The speed can't be both less than 600 and greater than 650, can it? But it can be one or the other. This kind of compound inequality is called a compound OR inequality. We'll talk more about compound inequalities in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this quick introduction to compound inequalities. Remember, compound inequalities come in two types, and OR. The AND compound inequality says that the acceptable values of a variable must be between two numbers. And the AND compound inequality is written as a lower limit, less than or equal to, or less than, the variable, less than or equal to, or less than the upper limit. An OR compound inequality says that the variable must be either less than one number or greater than another number. That's it for now. Please leave your comments below and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.